Good morning. Sorry for the kind of weird wake up call here, but it's about 5:30 on Friday morning. And I thought I would go through like a full day from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed, and kind of what my experience of living with a chronic illness is like in sort of a typical 24-hour period. Obviously, this will just be like my own personal experience and maybe kind of like an average day, but I thought it might be helpful or interesting either if you also have some kind of chronic illness to know what someone else's experience is like, or if you don't, to maybe know a little bit more about what it does feel like to kind of manage symptoms on a daily basis. So my day usually begins around 5:30. That's when I tend to wake up on my own, maybe somewhere between 5:30 and 6 a.m. And when I wake up on my own, I feel like I'm done sleeping, but also getting out of bed is pretty hard. I feel the best way to describe it is like kind of drugged. Like my body just feels really heavy. I feel groggy. I usually have some kind of body pain. Thankfully, right now, I just got over a really big flare-up last week where I was very, very uncomfortable and in a lot of pain for like the whole week. But right now, I would say my pain level is minimal, but not non-existent. I just sort of have a general achiness that on a good day like today kind of is just background noise and I can ignore it pretty much. But if I focus on it, it is definitely still there. I think that does kind of make it just harder to get out of bed in the morning, but I know well enough now after many, many years that feeling will go away once I do get up and get moving a little bit. I'm not going to feel better by laying in bed longer, or like I'm definitely not going to fall back asleep if I try to. So even though it's hard or sometimes really hard to get out of bed in the morning, I basically just have to convince myself that that feeling's not going to last. It's going to get better, and the only way it's going to get better is if I do actually get up. I do make my bed every morning, but I like to let it air out for a little bit first and then come back and make it later. Every morning I use this little light box just like while I'm brushing my teeth getting ready, because it'll be a couple hours before the sun is up, and I definitely will always make a point to try to get morning sunlight exposure for circadian rhythm purposes and so many other benefits. But it is only 5:30 right now, so this light, while not a substitute for sunlight, is bright enough that it will help wake me up in the morning. Another thing I do every single morning is a really quick, simple lymphatic drainage massage, if it can even be called that. Basically just like stimulating the major lymph node areas so that those drainage pathways are open and kind of help my body be more effective at detoxifying. And the very first medication or supplement that I'm using in the day is my estrogen prescription. This is a compounded estrogen formula. I started taking a few years ago when my bone density was like getting dangerously low and my body is just not producing enough estrogen. Estrogen is important for maintaining bone density, so even after years of work trying to help my body to produce more estrogen on its own, that wasn't really happening, so added in this formula a few years ago. Thankfully that did help. My bone density is now in a good spot, but these are basically just drops that I put on my skin every single morning. Next up in my morning routine is a liver detox supplement, which I'm supposed to take on an empty stomach, and then also my thyroid medication, another thing that I need to take early in the morning and before I'm eating any food or taking other supplements. I'm not really worried about this one because it's a liquid. I don't think it's really going to compete with absorption with the thyroid, like if I took a whole bunch of capsules or if I ate food beforehand or anything. So these are my two early morning supplement and medication. And then I also always do my neti pot, maybe not every morning, but most mornings, 5 times. Is this maybe like a little bit extra? Sure, but I got in the habit of this a long time ago when I had deviated septum surgery, and I use this afterwards to help like clear out my sinuses and help with healing and everything, and then just became a morning habit. And also I feel like it really does, like, it gets out a lot of stuff every morning, and I feel like I can breathe better. If I have a cold or allergies or anything, it's extra helpful. So this is another thing I do almost every morning. I'll take my thyroid medication with some warm lemon water, mostly just because I feel like it tastes better and it's easier to drink to me first thing in the morning. I don't really want to drink ice cold water, but it also potentially can help kickstart digestion a little bit, or just be a little bit easier on the system. Drink something warm in the morning. So that's how I take my thyroid. Okay, it's been about 40 minutes since I took my thyroid medication, and I do try to give that about 30 to 45 minutes to absorb before I take anything else or ingest anything else. So now that the medication has had a chance to be absorbed, I will make my morning hydration drink that I make every single morning to rehydrate myself after a night of sleep and not drinking anything, obviously. I know my body is going to be a little bit dehydrated, and I want to replenish my cells. I want to make sure that whatever liquid I'm drinking is not just plain water that might not actually be absorbed in my cells. So in my morning hydration drink, I always include electrolytes. I also add in a few other things that I want to include in my daily supplement routine, and also I'm using this morning drink as kind of a pre-workout drink as well. So I include some amino acids in there, a scoop of collagen peptides and creatine, and also some coconut water. So I'm getting a little bit of carbs, a little bit of protein in this drink, as well as the electrolytes. And it's just a way for me to get like 16 ounces of water in first thing in the morning, kind of kickstarting my hydration so that I'm getting enough throughout the day. And it gives me a little bit of fuel for what will come next, which will be a workout. So I've already added in the collagen peptides. I add that in earlier to let it dissolve, because sometimes it can get a little bit clumpy otherwise and it won't mix very well. So once that has dissolved, then I will add in creatine, amino acids, and electrolytes.
Birthdays today. Actor Michael to quote, "Shoot with Hormuz." NPR stated Hormuz and ship seizures by Iran is forcing wildfires are burning and lost their homes. Evacuations are underway in areas.
With my hydration drink, I also will take my vitamin C supplement, something that I would take every day anyway, but I take it with this in the morning because vitamin C can help with the absorption of the collagen peptides that are in the drink. This is when I also will take a B12 supplement and vitamin D K2 supplement. Two other parts of my morning routine that are intentional. One, I have not yet had any caffeine, so I will make coffee. I will have some caffeine in the morning, but I'm very mindful about how much caffeine I'm consuming throughout the day, and also what time or like when I'm consuming it. I try to wait at least an hour and a half before having any caffeine, and also making sure that I'm getting my hydration drink in first so that I am well hydrated before I'm having any caffeine. And waiting a little bit longer in the morning before having caffeine is also going to help make sure that I don't get a crash in the afternoon. The coffee that I use is like mostly decaffeinated. It's not entirely caffeine free, but it's a lot lower in caffeine so that I'm not getting a huge spike early in the morning. I also just find that like full strength coffee kind of makes me more jittery and uncomfortable rather than like getting a nice little boost. So at this point, I'm so used to it that lower caffeine works better for me. And I just want to make sure that I'm not like relying on caffeine for energy, because I already know that I have low energy. I don't want to sort of create like an artificial high all the time that then I feel like I have to keep up, or else I'm gonna feel even worse. So try to keep the caffeine to a minimum and be mindful about when I'm consuming it. The other piece is that I have not yet gone on my phone. That is also intentional. I turn my phone off at night before I go to bed. Actually, usually a couple of hours before I go to bed, so that I'm not tempted to pick it up or look at a screen in a couple of hours before bed. And then I'll get through most of my morning routine before I will pick up my phone again. And at that point, I will check what my Aura Ring says. I just kind of don't want to let my phone or the world of social media and and everything else be the first thing that I am thinking about or looking at. And I just find that my whole day is a lot nicer, and I'm less inclined to like look at my phone all the time throughout the day if I'm not looking at it first thing in the morning. But after I've been up for a while and also given myself a chance to see how I'm feeling just on my own, like what my energy is like, how I feel like I slept the night before, then I will look at my phone to check my Aura Ring score, see what my recovery stats look like for the day. I know that if I were to look at those first thing in the morning as well, that could actually influence how I feel, because I might, like on a day like today, feel like I got a really good night's sleep. I'm feeling pretty good this morning. And if I looked at my Aura Ring stats and it said that I did not get a good night's sleep or that something was off or whatever, if I had seen that first thing in the morning, I might actually feel a lot worse than I do right now, because that placebo effect can be that strong. So I just like to give myself a chance to really notice how I'm feeling on my own without the influence of any metrics or sleep data or whatever. But now that I've been up for a bit, I will look at what my Aura Ring says for the day, and then I'll be getting ready to head down to the gym for the next part of my morning routine, which is always getting some kind of movement in. My pre-workout fuel today will be a beef stick and some dried fruit and coffee. This is where I will consume my caffeine as a little boost before my workout. This will also get me a little bit of protein and carbs so that I don't have too much in my stomach. I'm not like digesting a bunch of food when I'm trying to do workout, but I'm not gonna crash either. And now that I have a little bit of fuel in me, ready to warm up and then head down to the gym. If you've been here for a minute, you know I always start my day off with some movement. For me, it's just when my energy is highest. It's when I have time to do it because I'm up early in the morning anyway. I feel better if I get some movement first thing in the morning. I feel like it helps my energy throughout the day. And I know that as the day goes on, my energy is going to get worse anyway, and that trying to get up the energy to do a workout or some kind of movement later in the day, it's just less likely to happen, or I'm gonna kind of dread it at that point. I mean, I will often like maybe go for a short walk in the afternoon or something like that, do some very low-key movement, but to actually get like a strength training session in or anything that requires a little more energy, definitely morning for me works best. So I'm gonna do a little warm up, foam rolling, get in front of the red light for a few minutes. I have my little mini trampoline that I also, not always, but sometimes will use as part of my warm up. It's also good for lymphatic drainage support, detox support, and it's just like a nice full body warm up as well. So I use that usually a few times a week as part of my warm up before my workout, and then we'll get down to the gym. The hardest part of a workout is always just getting through the warm up in the first couple of sets. I usually feel pretty terrible at first and like my muscles feel like lead, and it could just be really, really hard to get started. But just like getting out of bed in the morning, I know that if I get through the first 5 or 10 minutes, I'm gonna feel a lot better. I'm gonna get the energy boost. And if I continue to feel really tired or not great after I do the warm up, I'll just modify my workout and do what I can for the day. I've talked many times about the benefits of morning sunlight, but if I ever have the chance to get sunlight exposure into my eyes first thing in the morning, I'm gonna take it. It's just so incredibly helpful for like every cell in your body. It regulates your circadian rhythm. It basically kickstarts a whole bunch of processes in the body that are gonna help everything function better. So digestion, metabolism, energy, mood, how well you sleep at night. That morning sunlight is literally reaching your cells directly, signaling to them what time it is and setting into motion all the things that will then help when you're trying to go to bed at night, everything that needs to work well so that you're getting sleepy at the right time, falling asleep, staying asleep, that is set into motion, and that is affected by the light you get from the sun early in the morning. So have any trouble with sleep schedule, staying asleep, falling asleep, getting morning sunlight might be a huge help in that regard. It does need to be sunlight directly into your eyes, no sunglasses, not through a window, even just a few minutes early in the morning. Huge benefits for overall health. Post-workout breakfast is quick and easy because I have to get out the door to an appointment shortly. I have a protein bar, another beef stick for a little extra protein, and a couple of Brazil nuts, which are very high in selenium. And selenium is helpful for thyroid support, so I eat 1 or 2 of those every day. And then morning supplements, I have omega-3s, I have a bone support supplement, digestive enzyme, sulforaphane, which is like a high antioxidant slash detox support, and magnesium. I'm aiming to get about 120 grams of protein per day, or about 40 grams per meal, 3 meals a day. Between what I ate pre-workout and what I have here post-workout will be right about at 40 grams of protein for the morning. Just finished a massage appointment, and wow, I have the lines on my face to prove it. I guess that's a sign of a good massage. You come out with like major indentations in your face. But massage has been part of my overall routine for a really, really long time, mostly just to manage pain and discomfort. At this point, I probably get a massage once every 2 to 4 weeks, just kind of depending on how I feel. And I'm really grateful that I have a massage therapist that I really like and that I've worked with for a long time, and that I can get in to see him regularly. There was a time in the past, many years ago, where I literally was doing like sometimes 2 massages a week just to manage discomfort because I was experiencing so much pain and tension. And it was like the only thing that would give me some relief and like let me go a few days feeling okay. That was like before my jaw surgery and my tongue tie and getting my bite corrected and all of that. So I do think that was probably playing into it quite a bit in terms of the tension patterns that I was experiencing then, because in the years after that, it's gotten so much better, and that's why I'm able to go longer in between massages and not feel so uncomfortable. But I do still like to include it when I can, because I think it's also a really nice like stress reduction or just like nervous system regulation. And for me personally, it's just been one of the things that I find really helpful and works really well for me. And when I find something that works, it's going to continue to be a part of my routine, at least for now. I am home after my massage appointment. One other thing I was going to mention is that I usually try to book any kind of appointment or client sessions or anything that like I really need to do in the morning if I can, just because that's when my energy is better. And I know that by the afternoon, if I need to like have enough energy to focus on something important or meet with somebody or whatever, that it's just going to be a little bit harder. Obviously, that's not always possible, but I do try to put anything that is like important to me or just like requires me to have more energy earlier in the day when I can. And then like things that I need to do that are maybe less time sensitive, or things where I can do what I can with whatever energy I have, I will save for later in the day. On a day like today, it doesn't feel as hard because my fatigue is not super intense, but especially on days where my fatigue or brain fog or pain or whatever is more intense, I know it's going to get harder as the day goes on, and try not to leave anything critical for that time of the day when I know I'm going to feel really tired and unmotivated. But anyway, got home, did a little work on my computer. Now I am making lunch. As I said earlier, my focus with meals is definitely getting enough protein, but getting a good balance of macronutrients. So protein, carbs, and fats. Eating mostly unprocessed whole foods. I'm definitely not perfect about that, and I'm not like completely eliminating foods or sugar or whatever. I do probably eliminate like ultra processed foods. That's not really something that I want to include in my diet or have any real desire to include. And I found a variety of whole foods that I really like, that my body seems to respond to well. My meals don't vary a lot. Like I have a lot of variety within meals, so I'm getting a good mix of things throughout my day. But like I was saying in my last video, when I had a really bad flare-up, one of the things that I have tried to do is be pretty consistent with things like my food choices. For one, because it does eliminate decision making and just kind of the energy that it requires to maybe come up with different meals every day. I don't want to spend my energy on that. So when I have something that I like, it becomes part of the rotation, and just keep things pretty simple. If I'm making a meal, I'll think about having a protein, having some kind of vegetable or carb source, some kind of healthy fat, and as much variety of micronutrients as I can. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy or complicated. And by keeping my meals pretty simple and consistent, when I do have a flare up or something happens where my body seems to be responding not well to something, I can kind of eliminate food as the trigger, because I know I have eaten these things before and not had a problem with it. And I don't really mind eating the same things again and again, as long as there's enough variety overall. So it just really makes my life easier in a lot of ways. That said, I will show you what I'm having for lunch today. This is one of my go-to meals. I have some ground beef, some shredded lettuce, avocado for healthy fats. I have a gluten-free tortilla and a clementine for carb source. I also have a cup of bone broth, which not only is another good source of protein, but it's something that I try to have pretty much every day because it is very high in gelatin and glycine, both of which can support gut health. I also just really like it, so it's easy to include. And I also have some fermented veggies, which is another thing that I try to include daily, both because I like it and because it has a lot of probiotics in it and can also support gut health. And I have my midday supplements, which is another digestive enzyme, which I take with each meal, and the rest of my bone support supplement, which I kind of split up throughout the day so that I'm not taking so many pills all at once. It's about 1 o'clock now. I'm about to sit down at my computer again for a bit, get some things done, probably work a little bit on the continuing education course that I'm taking. I have a couple of months before I have to renew my nutrition coaching certification and have to fulfill a certain amount of credits for that. So still have a bit of time to finish this course, but not a lot. I want to make sure that I keep up with that. My little afternoon pick-me-up is some green tea and some dark chocolate. Chocolate is like my treat of choice, and in between the green tea and the chocolate, I will get a little bit of caffeine, so I'll get a little bit of a boost to kind of get me through the afternoon. But I know that as long as I stop consuming any caffeine by like 2 p.m., it won't mess with my sleep at all. I've had to kind of figure that out over the years, like through trial and error, what time I can safely consume some caffeine or like how much. Green tea is not gonna have a ton of caffeine, and it also is not gonna make me like jittery or anxious like maybe coffee would. But if I were to have dark chocolate like at night before bed, that will have an effect on me. I have noticed that in the past. It'll keep me from falling asleep. I'll have more disrupted sleep. As long as I'm consuming it around like 1:30 p.m. or like cutting it off by 2 o'clock, that seems to be fine for me. I will be able to fall asleep and it's not gonna actually affect the quality of my sleep. But it's become kind of a nice little afternoon ritual, and that little bit of caffeine does give me just enough energy and focus to get some things done, even when my energy might start to be waning a bit. It is later in the afternoon. Usually I would have an in-person personal training client that I meet with on Friday afternoons, but we had to reschedule this week. So I have a little bit of time this afternoon. I have the sauna on, heating up, and I'm just going to do a little meal prep, get dinner ready. So I have that out of the way and can get in the sauna for a bit. By the time I finish that, it'll basically be time for dinner and to start winding down for the day. It's about 6:30 now, just finished with dinner. I eat pretty early because I go to bed pretty early. I'm usually in bed somewhere between 8 and 8:30 and like lights out somewhere between 8:30 and 9. And I do like to have a couple of hours between finishing dinner and getting into bed to give my body a little bit of time to digest. And usually what I will try to do to start that wind down routine is after dinner, I'll take a short walk, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. That also will help with digestion. Getting some evening sunlight has the same benefits as morning sunlight. It can also help with circadian rhythm regulation and like kickstart the processes that will help me get a good night's sleep. But this is also the time where the fatigue hits really, really hard, and it can be a little challenging to get myself to go out for that 5 or 10 minute walk. So it doesn't always happen, but given the benefits for digestion and blood glucose management and knowing that it's going to help me get a better night's sleep, I'm usually able to convince myself to go. So I'm going to head out now, get that short walk in. When I get back, that is when I will turn my phone off usually, kind of be the end of my screen time, or so I'm not like tempted to pick up my phone anymore the rest of the night. Do some stretching in front of my red light, and then basically just be getting ready for bed, reading for a while until I am sleepy and then going to sleep. last thing I do before I get in bed is to take my evening medications, which includes low-dose naltrexone. That is another compounded medication that's been quite well studied actually for like autoimmune conditions, chronic pain, IBS, things like that. It can really help to regulate an overactive immune system, and I found it to be very helpful for pain management. And then the other thing I take at night is progesterone, similar to the estrogen that I take in the morning. My body just does not produce enough on its own, and taking this really does seem to help me with sleep in particular, which is why I take it at night before bed. It is the next day, and I realized I didn't really end this video, so just wanted to kind of wrap things up, summarize the last 24 hours. I will say yesterday was one of the better days that I have experienced in a long time in terms of my energy and pain levels and everything, especially compared to last week where I had that huge flare up and just like the whole week was extremely uncomfortable. Yesterday and today, maybe the last few days, have felt a lot better and a lot more, I guess what I would consider to be kind of like my normal or baseline. There might be days that are even better where I feel a little more energized or less brain foggy or very little pain or whatever, and then there might be days like last week where I have large or small flare-ups and just have more discomfort or fatigue overall. But even on the good days like yesterday, the fatigue is always there in the background. Pain, some level of pain is pretty much always there. It might just be more at a level that I can ignore, I think, for better or worse, and I'm sure any of you that also have some kind of chronic illness can relate to this. I've gotten used to functioning at like a suboptimal level or having some kind of level of pain or discomfort, fatigue all the time become very normal for me. I'm not sure I can even really remember what it feels like to wake up feeling rested or energized or not having some kind of pain, not feeling a little bit brain foggy or hard to focus. It's been so long for me that I've been managing this, like over 15 years at this point. And kind of given it was so much worse at the very beginning when I wasn't really managing it well at all, that yeah, at this point it's just become my normal to function at this level. And I think that also means that like the outside world has only seen me function at this level for so long that people around me, I'm not sure, fully understand where I'm at, which might partly be my fault. I'm not really one to like say out loud how I'm feeling on a day-to-day basis. Even that sometimes can feel like too much energy output to like even maybe explain to my family or friends like, hey, I'm having a really low energy day or I'm in a lot of pain today or whatever. I kind of just try to manage it as best I can and get through the day. But even on a good day like today, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and despite having pretty good energy throughout the day and very little pain at this point in the day, like the thought of doing anything other than some kind of activity that requires very little physical or mental energy, anything other than that feels kind of impossible. And sometimes it feels like my whole day is just trying to fit in whatever needs to get done in this small window of time where I might have the energy to do it, or like all of my energy is going towards doing the things that I'm hoping are going to help my body be able to function well and potentially heal in the long run. And then I just don't have a lot of energy for anything else. Thankfully, this is still a lot better than where I was at the beginning of this journey. I think a lot of that is in part because I'm able to put a lot of focus into daily self-care habits that I know are going to at least give my body the best chance to function better, and being really intentional about things like getting enough sleep and good nutrition and just being mindful of how I'm managing my energy, not overwhelming my body or overstressing myself. I think that has helped a lot to get me to where I am today, because there was a time where it was like a real struggle to get through the day. I was just so exhausted, and it just felt like so effortful to do anything. So I'm really grateful that I'm not in that place anymore, and things do feel a lot more manageable now, and that's really why I am so committed to doing whatever I can on an everyday basis to hopefully help myself move forward, or at the very least not go in the wrong direction. So yeah, I guess that was basically 24 hours of managing my symptoms. I suppose it might be interesting to do this again on a not so good day, although it does always feel a lot harder to want to record anything on those days, but we'll see. Maybe it would still be a useful exercise. So if you have made it this far, thank you very much for watching. If you are managing your own chronic illness or health challenge, let me know in the comments what strategies have helped you the most or how you manage your symptoms on a day-to-day basis. I've learned a lot from other people who are in a similar position, and I'm always curious to hear what other people's strategies are, so definitely share if you would like to. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next week.